Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. We've got another Transformers review coming your way. This time around, we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Studio Series number 78 Sideswipe. And this is Sideswipe as we saw him from the Revenge of the Fallen movie. So as we always do, let's go ahead and take a look at that packaging. And you can see right up front, you've got some nice CGI artwork of Sideswipe. Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, Studio Series Sideswipe, Transformers at the side. More of that CGI artwork right there. On the back, you have your product shots. It is big screen inspired. It is the Shanghai Pursuit. And Sideswipe is light on his wheels as he pursues sideways, complementing his own handiwork after he slices the Decepticon in half. And it's officially licensed by General Motors. Down here, the backdrop is included. You've got all your warnings. You do have the sad baby, which thankfully Sideswipe does not slice in half. And over here, you've got a close-up of that artwork. He is a deluxe class. Up top, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. Down low, manufacturing information. So that's it for the packaging on the outside. Let's go ahead and take a look at everything that came inside that box. And laid out here before you is everything that comes inside that box. We'll start as we always do with the little sheet of warnings. And you also get your instructions. And then you do get a total of 4 accessories. You get 2 blades and 2 guns. So we'll go ahead and start with those blades. Now, these are, I don't want to say they're exactly the same because one is left and one is right. But as far as the features and everything go, these are the same thing. So we'll take a look at one of these and give you a close-up here. Now, this is a little bit of parts forming that goes on. So this does involve being part of the side of the car mode. But as far as looking like blades, they look really cool on his hands. So compliments and credit where it's due there. And you do get a good amount of molded in detail inside. Move my finger out of the way there so you can see that side. And the paint is pretty nicely done. I mean, this is a nice silver on all the painted areas of the car. I think it's, for the most part, done pretty well. So, yeah, these blades are really cool. I enjoy these. And as far as the pistols go, or the guns, same thing. I don't want to say they're exactly the same because they are slightly directional because of the weapon storage. You have these tabs that are on, you know, the opposite sides of each other. But everything else on them is exactly the same. So molded in color is the same. No paint apps. An okay amount of detail. But these aren't anything amazing. And, you know, who are we kidding? Most people are going to be displaying him with the blades. The pistols are going to be secondary. So they're okay. You know, that's about all that I can say about those. All right. So that's it for everything that came inside that box, except, of course, the display base that you see right here. And this is the scene from the Shanghai Pursuit where Sideways flies out of that window, Sideswipe chases him down, uses his blades, and cuts him in half. So really cool little scene from that movie. The display base looks nice. Wish I had the room, but this will be going back into the box, and the box will be going back into storage. But if you have room, definitely worth having these out and displaying. So that's it for everything inside the box except for Mr. Sideswipe himself. So what we'll do now is we'll bring him in for his close-up. So before we bring Sideswipe in for his close-up, I do want to say right off the start that for a deluxe class, this guy looks really good. I mean, he's got it in the looks department, no doubt about it. I do have a few gripes with him. We'll get into that a little bit later. But for now, let's go ahead and take a close look at what he has to offer. And we'll start with that head, if I can keep it in focus. He does have a big chest right here that might throw my camera off a little bit. But I think for the most part, that head sculpt and the paint apps on there look really good. You know, thumb for scale. This is a tiny head, and they packed a lot into this as far as geometry goes, molded in detail and paint apps. So job well done right there. He's got a little bit of detail up top in these areas. Come down to that chest, you've got a whole lot of rear end of that Corvette. You have the Corvette logo right there, and then good molded in detail and paint apps down here in the abdomen area. Coming down to those legs, not a lot going on here. It's okay. Now, he does have some hollow areas on the inside of the legs, but they're not really that bad. And keeping in mind that this is a deluxe class price point, what you get here, I really don't think is that bad. Now, on the inside down here, you do have some more molded in detail. I think that came out looking pretty good. And you do, on the front, have a little bit going on there. And then you've got these painted toes. Coming over here to the side, molded in detail there. And lift that arm out of the way. You can see it going all the way up the leg. I think what they've done here, this all looks really nice. I really like this little shock that they've done back here. And you've got a little bit going on inside. Not too much. All right, and then coming around here to the back, yes, he does have a backpack. This is pretty standard for the Bayverse Sideswipes. So just kind of lifting all this stuff out of the way. There's a lot tucked in underneath here. So he has no shortage of Corvette on his back, I guess is the way to put it. So that's pretty much all that you see back here. You do get, again, a good look at those shocks right there, and you do have some hollow areas back here, but that's due to the transformation. You have to fold these legs up onto themselves, so they need somewhere to go. Would have been nice if they would have had a panel, but that's okay. Again, it's a deluxe class figure. The price point really doesn't justify the extra engineering and manufacturing to put a panel there. Now, as far as the articulation goes, this is where we're going to talk about my gripes a little bit. I'll get it out of the way now. First things first, right out of the box, this is super loose. So if you look over here, it's kind of nice when it works because you can angle these pretty much any way you want, and you can give him a bunch of different looks, which would be so cool. It's kind of expressive, almost like a cat's ears. It'd be so nice if mine actually would stay in a position so I could do that. But yeah, I'm just going to have to fix that. I don't like to fix any of the flaws before I do the reviews because I want you guys to see, you know, complete and raw, any of the issues that I have with my figures, just so you know going in what the potential is on your copy. So down the road, I'll tighten this up, but for now, just know that if that flops around, that's why. So the head, you don't really get any side-to-side on the head. He's pretty stiff when it comes to that, so you're not going to get any quizzical looks, but you can get some up, you can get some down, and you can take that head all the way around if you want to do that. And to a certain degree, you can adjust these chest panels the way you want. So, you know, you could bring them up, you could bring them down, you could bring them in, you could bring them out. Again, however you want to make Sideswipe look, and, you know, maybe give him different types of expressions. Now, as far as the arms go, it's kind of cool. So you have, of course, the ability, you can bring the arms up about that far, but because you have this joint down here, you can also, I don't know why you would want to do this, but you could kind of give him a bad case of droopy arm syndrome if you want to do that, or you could bring the shoulders up higher than what I have them. So you could do something like that. And you can go, again, avoiding all of the other car geometry here, you could go all the way around a full 360 at that shoulder. And at the elbow, you get 90 degrees of bend, and you get bicep rotation all the way around. The only thing you get at that hand is just that swivel in for transformation, but you can utilize that if you want for posing. You do get waist rotation, so you could take that all the way around if you choose to do so. And then down here at the legs, you get a mediocre split. You know, it's enough to pose him, but I'm unimpressed. You can kick forward that far, and again, keeping in mind of the geometry, you could kick back a heck of a lot further if there wasn't a backpack right there, but what you can get is still more than enough to get some nice dynamic poses. You do get a little bit of rotation on that ball joint up here, and then just below it you get thigh rotation right there. So you can take that all the way around. And at this knee, you get just under 90, and like I said, I really like what they've done here with the shock, so when you extend that back out, you can see that come out. I think that's a good mechanical motion there. And then coming down here, you have this ankle, if you want to call it that, where you can go backward that far, and you could go further, of course, for transformation, but for the robot mode, with his heel back there, that's as far as you go, and forward that far so you can give him that chicken stance. Now, you don't get any ankle tilt, so, you know, you're just going to have to, like, I guess if you really needed it, you could split that open and give him a little bit right there using these two transformation joints. So if you wanted to do something crazy, you could. But for the most part, I think the articulation is okay on this guy. He is more than anything, he's limited by his own geometry. He's limited by all the car hanging off of him. If you could find a way to get around the car, you can get this guy in some pretty good poses. Would have been nice to have had some ankle tilt on there, but that's about my biggest complaint as far as articulation goes. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and talk about his accessories and the clever use of weapon storage that you have in his robot mode. So here we see Sideswipe with his accessories on, ready to go into battle. So you can see that he can indeed hold his blades and his guns at the same time, which I think is really nice. But as I stated earlier, I think everybody's pretty much going to go for that blade look. They're just way cooler than the guns are. However, for the guns, he does have some really cool weapon storage that you can keep the guns on or stored in his robot mode, and you can keep them stored in the car mode, and they don't interfere with the transformation, which I think is a nice use of engineering. Now, there's really not any weapon storage in bot mode for the blades, but I think we all know most people are just going to keep the blades on his hands because he looks pretty great with those blades on his hands. So as far as the weapon storage for the guns go, let's go ahead and take a look at that. So you just take the gun out of his hand, and if you look back here, now you do have to lift these up a little bit, the backpack up out of the way. So just take all this and lift it up, and then you see you have these slots right there. You're going to have one on either side, and you take these guns, and you have that tab right there on the gun. You're going to line that tab up with that slot and plug it in. So not the easiest thing to do on camera, but let's try it. Take it and plug it in, and there you go. That's it. You just take that, you plug it in there, it holds it nice and firm, doesn't get in the way in robot mode or in vehicle mode, so you can just tuck those away and kind of forget about them if you want to. So we'll do the same thing with this gun over here. I'll take that blade off just to make life easier for me, and take this gun, line that tab up, and plug it in. And boom, there you go. You have his guns stored on his person, which I think is great. Now, since we took the blade off, not really a lot to it, but we'll show you. There's a tab on that blade right there at the end, right here. And you have a slot in his hand. Line it up, plug it in, and he is ready to go. So there you go. That is Mr. Sideswipe with his accessories and with his weapon storage. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and we'll jump into that transformation and get him into his Corvette mode. So to get Sideswipe transformed into his Corvette mode, if you haven't already done so, go ahead and take those blades off of his hands. And I have gone ahead and taken the guns out of the weapon storage back here. You don't have to do that for transformation, but I'm just doing it so just in case as I'm fiddling around with this guy, we don't have a gun flying off screen anywhere. So take your hands, fold those in on either side, get those out of the way, nice and tucked away. Come back here to this backpack and lift this up on its double hinge. So you're gonna feel that there's a double hinge back there, and then you're gonna go ahead and take this hood, bring the hood down, and then you have this. I'm trying to give you the best view possible here. You've got a double hinge right there. So lift that up out of the way and bring it back. So you've got that out of your way, so you've got clearance for everything else that's going to go on back here. Now you can take this chest assembly and lift that chest assembly up right there, and you're going to bring that up over the head. And when you do that, bring these arms down. And these are going to keep getting in your way. I don't know any other way to say it, but they're just going to keep getting in your way, so just try to keep them out of the way. These will be one of the last things that we do, at least the way I do it. So once you have everything positioned about like that, you're going to bring this assembly back and then collapse it onto the back of the car. Again, getting these out of your way. This is one of my gripes. One of these is loose, and this thing just keeps getting in your way when you transform. Don't forget to unfold your exhaust tips if they fold in on you. Make sure that you've got those cleared, and then bring these down. And these are on ball joints, so just maneuver those out of your way and then close that up. And then you're just going to align these pieces. So you're going to get about right here. I mean, this is your approximate point right here in the transformation. So you've got a couple little tabs in there. That's what I'm trying to do here, is I'm just trying to get this lined up. There we go. So my other gripe, and you'll see this during the transformation, is panel alignment in general on this figure. The car mode looks really good except for all the gappy panels. So kind of gets in the way and detracts from the look. So once you're here, you're simply going to take these arms and fold them up. And then those wheels are going to tuck away. And do the same thing over here. So keep that just like that. And then once you have this, now you're going to turn your attention to the front of the car, or the feet, which will eventually be the front of the car. So take these, rotate each of these 180 degrees like that, and then you're going to spin this silver piece around, and it's going to line up to the front, or to this other toe right here. And then you're going to fold this in 180 degrees, and you're going to have something that looks like that. So do the same thing on this foot, and now you do have your tab in your slot system, or your peg in your port system right there. Squeeze those two pieces together, and you've got your front legs locked in for the front of the car. And then this is where you can start bringing the rest of the car down. So it's a little bit of a shell forming exercise at this point. So bring that down, collapse it in, bring that hood down, collapse it underneath, and bring these up over. You've got these tabs that are going to line up right there on either side. And then you still have these arms that are still going to keep getting in your way for a moment. So I'm just going to keep those out like that, because the next thing that we're going to need to do is we're going to need to bring in the blades. And so what you're going to do with the blades here is you have this large tab. I'm going to sit them down for a second. You have this large tab right here, and you have this small tab right here. So you can see as you bring the arm in, you are, let's get to the correct side, you are going to have something that looks like that. Okay, so you have this small slot here, and you have this larger slot right there that's going to align to all of those. So I'm going to pull that arm out of the way, not that far, get this back where it belongs, and then I'm going to align those up and squeeze that in. And that's your part forming, essentially, which I'm not complaining about. I'm just simply making a note of. Part forming doesn't really bother me too awful much. And then you're going to squeeze this piece in. And then before I get too much further, I'm going to go ahead and take care of the other side. So these also help solidify, because they connect to this point here and to this point here. It's going to really tighten everything up and make this a little bit more solid than what its current state is. So line those slots, and then start bringing all this together. So now you're just in cleanup mode, panel alignment, whatever you want to call it. And this guy is really panely. For those who've watched my previous videos, you know that I can be a little bit of a stickler for this kind of stuff, so I could potentially be fiddling with this guy for a while. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to stop right there, and I'll just do a quick edit, and then I'll show you the finished version of him after I have everything squeezed together to the best of my ability and at least to my satisfaction. Okay, so here we have the Studio Series Sideswipe transformed into his Corvette mode. And before anything else, let's go ahead and talk about my really last major gripe with this guy. And it is absolutely the panel lines. They drive me bonkers. I've transformed this guy a few times, more than a few times, and I'm continually frustrated with this huge gap back here on both sides. There's nothing that locks these in. So as you can tell, I will squeeze them and they will pop back out. Drives me crazy. I wish that this thing would lock in and close that gap right there. That would make me so happy. So third-party companies, whenever you make a knockoff of this, do something about this, because I think we can do better. So, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, overlooking that and overlooking the other panel gaps, let's go ahead and look at this guy and get the close-ups of him. So you can see right up front, you've got that Corvette logo and a pretty decent looking front end for the most part. I think they could have done a little bit more work up front, but it's not bad. Again, keeping in mind it's a deluxe class figure. And you've got those nice looking wheels and tires. And minus the panel lines, the styling, the body overall looks good. It does have that little stingray symbol right there. So it's kind of nice. And back here, the same thing. You've got that stingray symbol. You do have the tail lights decked out in red. You have those exhaust tips that look pretty good. And for the most part, everything compacts up nicely. So even from the back, you're not going to see, anything major sticking out or looking that ugly. So he does compact up very well. I just wish that we could do something about those panel lines. So there he is from the top. There he is from the bottom. And he does have a bad case of visible head syndrome. But for the most part, everything, like I said, compacts up pretty well. And minus those panel lines, he looks pretty decent. Let's go ahead and move into the alt mode comparisons so you can see how he looks against some other vehicles. For our first comparison, I'm going to go ahead and start with the most relevant, at least in my opinion, comparison that we can have here, and that is the Studio Series Sideswipe next to the Human Alliance Sideswipe that came out a few years back for Revenge of the Fallen. So as far as I'm concerned, and particularly for my collection, this is the gold standard as far as Bayverse Sideswipes go. His car mode is absolutely wonderful. The bot mode got a really big backpack, but he looks pretty cool in bot mode. So if you can overlook that ginormous backpack that he has, it comes across pretty good. But for car mode, he's definitely the gold standard. So let's go ahead and take a little bit of time here to really take a look at those details. And you can see, that for the most part, the Studio Series has done a good job here of capturing the overall look of the prototype Corvette Stingray that Sideswipe was in Revenge of the Fallen. However, no doubt about it, I mean, you can see that for the Human Alliance, we have a lot more detail, and we have these really cool headlight inserts, which would have been nice if they could have done something as far as the paint goes there. And looking at them from the side, now I don't have my door adjusted quite right because the doors on these open, so I'm going to let that go for now because I don't want this review to be too long and I can get really picky. But minus the fact that I don't have my door set up properly, you can see again that for the most part, the Studio Series has captured it, just the overall look. And if it wasn't for these, just for those gaps right there, I would be pretty happy with this being a deluxe class price point. And from the back, same thing. You can see good capture overall of all the detail between the two. And we'll go head to head here. Oops. And then we'll go back to back. So there you go. Like I say, I think this is probably the most relevant comparison, so I wanted to take a little bit of extra time and walk through that so you could see the similarities and the differences between the Studio Series and the Human Alliance. Unfortunately, I do not have a G1 Sideswipe in my collection, so the next best thing I have is the MP12 Transformers Masterpiece Sideswipe. Next up is the bot that Sideswipe cut in half in Revenge of the Fallen. This is Sideways. Now this figure in particular is the one that came out when the movie premiered in 2009. So this isn't a Studio Series. This is just one of the kind of the original Bayverse figures that came out a few years back. And for another Bayverse Corvette comparison, this is the Crosshairs. This is the figure, I think it was the premiere edition, the last night premiere edition Crosshairs. So again, not a Studio Series, just one of the figures that premiered when the movie came out. So you can see how those two look together. And our last alt mode comparison is the War for Cybertron Kingdom Trax. So figured I'd bring him in since he's another Corvette. That does it for the alt mode comparison, so let's go ahead and get back into transformation to get him into robot mode. So to get Sideswipe transformed back into his robot mode, the first thing you're going to want to do is take these panels off. So just give those a little bit of a tug. Take one off, put it off to the side. Give it a little bit of a tug, put it off to the side. Then you can come up here and split these at the front. Just give them a little split like that. And grab that hood, give it a wiggle, bring that up so it's out of your way. Once you've done that, you've freed up yourself so you can take care of the legs now. So if you bring those legs out just a little bit like that, and you can keep them together or you can split them, your choice. Just fold these out at the knee. And once you're at this point, just give these a wiggle, give them a split. And now you're going to fold the toes around like that. Well, let me back up. I was getting ahead of myself. You are going to fold the wheels in like that. And then you're going to fold those toes. So let's try it correctly on this one, shall we? You're going to fold the wheels in. Slide that out of the way. Slide that out of the way. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with me tonight, guys. And fold those in. And there you have the legs done. So he can balance and looks like he's holding a car on his back. Alright, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to take these arms and bring those arms down. So you can just grab by the wheels here and give those a little tug. Bring them down. And go ahead and pull these out of your way. Now up here in this section, you need to separate the back from this section right here. And this can be a bit of a challenge, just getting everything, being able to grab it. A bit of a pain, there we go. So get that separated, and then you can push or pull this out of your way. Make sure you've got everything clear. There we go. And now you can pull that out of your way, and then that allows you to bring these down, to bring this chest assembly down. Push his head back a little bit so you're not scraping any of that paint off. And then you have this little tab in here going to that slot, and you're just going to give that a squeeze, and then you can angle those any way you want, as we discussed earlier. Push his exhaust pipes down about right there so it looks like he's going to fire a projectile. And then you're going to tuck all this away. Take that windshield, or take that hood, I'm sorry, and tuck it up underneath, just like that. And then you're going to bring this down. Whoa! It's on a double hinge right there. You're just going to bring that down like that. And then lift these up. If you had one that would stay, then you could lift it up. Lift it up like that, and then you're just going to take those arms and you're going to bring them up underneath there on both sides. Flip out those fists, angle these however you want, and you know, do what you can with that if you've got a loose one like me. I'm going to push his arm back actually so it'll rest on his arm. I'll just give him a stance like that, and there you have Sideswipe in his robot mode. Actually, I want to show something for the accessories really quick that I missed earlier. So let's jump into that. So you have the weapon storage for your guns, but you also have storage for the blades if you wanted to use it. So if you look back here, I'll just use my loose one. Let's get the arm out of the way. If you look back here, you have a spot where you can tuck the blades away. And so you can just fit that in and tuck those away like that if you want to do that. And they're interchangeable, so I'm not entirely sure which one goes on which side. So you could use this one or you could use this one and tuck it away. Really up to you, however you want your Sideswipe to look. And yeah, I mean, I think he looks pretty cool that way. Absolutely, why not? Throw his guns on. Might as well have him holding something, right? So now he really does look like he's ready to go into battle and hurt some people pretty bad. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the bot mode comparison so you can see how he looks compared to some of the other bots out there. So here's our first robot mode comparison, and just like what we did with the car mode, we're going to take a little bit of a deep dive here and just show you the similarities and the differences between the Studio Series Sideswipe and the Human Alliance Sideswipe. And you can see right off the bat, you know, both of them I think look great in their robot mode if you ignore this huge backpack that he has. And it really is maybe one of the biggest backpacks I've ever seen on a mainline Transformer. But really, just looking at them head on, very nervous about him. He likes to fall over because of that backpack, so he is very top heavy. So, but if you just look at him head on, I mean, you can see just all that great attention to detail. Now, of course, he's a little bit bigger of a figure, so he's going to have a little bit more detail in him, and he does have, you know, some more painted apps, and of course, he does come with EPs. But I think for the most part, you know, the Studio Series here has done a great job of capturing the bot mode, and really a much better job of the backpack. So, but you can see head on just how good both of these guys look. And if we put them back to back, again, making me nervous, you can just see what I'm talking about with that backpack. I mean, that is just so much car hanging off back there. So it's really difficult to get this guy posed, but we're there. We made it. We got it. It's good. And showing you from the back, so you can see well, what they do here. A little bit different engineering as far as that goes. So pretty significant size difference between the two, but I honestly think that the engineering here is done better than the engineering on this one. All right, so that is it for the, well, it's not it for all the comparisons, but that is it for our deep dive here. And we'll go ahead and we'll get into the other bot mode comparisons. Now, like I said, I just want to take a little bit of time and really show the similarities and the differences between the two here. And our next comparison is MP12, the Masterpiece Sideswipe. So you can see how those two look together. Here we see Studio Series Sideswipe next to the character that he cut in half in Revenge of the Fallen. This is the figure that came out in 2009 for that movie. This is Sideways. Here he is next to a fellow Bayverse Corvette. This is the Age of Extinction Crosshairs. Next up is the War for Cybertron Kingdom Trax. So you can see him standing next to yet another Corvette. And our last bot mode comparison is my universal scale. This is the Kingdom and/or Earthrise Leader Class Optimus Prime. That wraps up the bot mode comparison, so let's go ahead and jump right into those final thoughts. So let's go ahead and talk about those final thoughts for the Studio Series 78 Sideswipe as we saw him in Revenge of the Fallen. The quick synopsis is, I like the way he looks in bot mode, I like the way he looks in car mode, but I have a problem with the overall quality, particularly with the wing in bot mode and with those panel lines in car mode. But let's go ahead and get through those bullets and itemize this guy up and quantify him a little bit, shall we? So as far as the aesthetics, going back to what I just said, I think both modes look really good. I think the engineering that is on this figure is probably some of the best engineering we've seen for a Sideswipe figure, or at least a Bayverse Sideswipe figure. And I think that he pulls the bot mode off really well. And aside from those panel lines, the car mode is about as good as anything you could expect in the deluxe class. So for aesthetics, I'm going to give this guy an 8 out of 10. Moving on to articulation. Again, for a deluxe class figure, this guy's got all kinds of articulation. You can pretty much position his arms anywhere you want. The waist rotation is there. Decent movement in those hips, thigh rotation. The biggest and only drawback that I have with this guy is the lack of ankle tilt. And if anybody needed ankle tilt, it was going to be this guy, because he's got those narrow toes anyway. So it would have been nice to be able to angle those ankles to give him a little more solid footing anywhere. So that one's definitely going to pull him down. Articulation everywhere else is good. I love the fact that if I had wings that weren't loose, that you could pose those wings any way you want to really give him some nice expressions, and you can move those chest pieces around any way you want. So strong articulation everywhere except for the ankle tilt, and that's going to bring that down to an 8 out of 10 for me. Moving on to the accessories. Again, thinking of this as a deluxe class figure, this guy has some pretty decent accessories. Those blades are phenomenal in bot mode. They look really good. I know right now, as I have him displayed, I have him in his the Mexican standoff mode from Revenge of the Fallen, right before Ironhide, Dark of the Moon, right before Ironhide met his demise in Dark of the Moon at the hands of Sentinel Prime. So I've always liked this look, you know, with the two guns and spread out, and that was always a cool moment for me in those movies. But yeah, the blades look great. The guns are okay, but those blades really do it for me. So for a deluxe class figure, I'm going to give this guy a 9 out of 10 for accessories. Moving on to quality. You've heard me say it. This is definitely his weak point. Gosh, that loose wing really, really detracts from me. And this is out of the box. Yes, I can fix that problem fairly easily, but I shouldn't have to. You would think coming out of the box that it would be tight, so that's really a bummer for me. And no matter what I do in car mode, I get those panel lines, especially over those rear tires, and my gosh, it just so detracts from me. So I'm very, very let down by the quality on this figure. I'm going to give an overall 6 out of 10 in quality for this guy. Moving on to our last point, which is value. For the price point, taking away the quality issues for a deluxe class figure, you get a lot in this Sideswipe. I mean, you get great accessories. He looks good. You can get him in some pretty good poses. So overall value, taking quality out of the equation, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10, which is going to give Sideswipe a total of 39 out of 50, or an overall 78% rating. So I hope that helps. And I hope that helps you, decide if this is going to be a purchase that you want to make. For me personally, barring the quality issues, this is probably one of the better Sideswipe molds we've gotten from the main line from Hasbro. So I'm glad I picked him up, and I would, buyer beware of a couple of those panel line issues, and hopefully you don't have anything loose on yours. But I am going to give this guy a recommendation that if you can find him, go ahead and pick him up. I think he's going to be a nice collection in the Studio Series for you. So with that, that's going to wrap the review up. As always, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. If you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to give us a subscribe and leave us a comment. Let us know what you think about the channel, what you think about the figures that we're reviewing. And, I'd hate to hear it, and I hope it's not the case. But if you have any quality issues with your Sideswipe when you pick him up, love to hear about that too. I really hope this isn't systemic, what we're seeing here. I really hope that Hasbro gets their quality ducks in a row, so to speak. So with that, guys, that's the end of the review. Thanks again for watching, and until we see you in the next one, take care.